Before moving forward, let's check a few things inside of QuickBooks. Quickly make sure that time tracking is enabled. Go to Edit, Preferences, Time and Expense, Company Preferences. Do you track time? And it should say yes. While you are there, you may also want to confirm that your start day of the week is correctly selected in QuickBooks. Check to make sure that the correct QuickBooks company file is open on your computer and that you are signed in as an admin in single user mode. After the initial integration, you will be able to sync the web connector on this device while not signed in as admin or in multi-user mode. You will also want to make sure that under the list menu, you have a payroll item list. Payroll items are used to categorize time into regular time, overtime, sick, vacation, and many more use cases for payroll. If you don't see payroll items under lists, then you probably don't have payroll enabled with Intuit. You don't have to have Intuit's payroll subscription to use the integration. We have many customers that use the integration for invoicing from time and QuickBooks only. But if you are not using Intuit's payroll service, you'll first need to add payroll items to your QuickBooks account. Because the time imported from ClockShark lands in the QuickBooks weekly timesheets, in order for us to be able to send time to QuickBooks, a payroll item needs to be associated with the time data. If you don't have an Intuit payroll subscription or payroll items, but plan on using it in the future, please reach out to QuickBooks to get payroll set up. If you will not process payroll in QuickBooks in the future, the quickest method to add payroll items is to add a placeholder payroll item to an employee's payroll settings in the QuickBooks Employee Center. To add a placeholder, go to Employees, Employee Center, edit an existing employee, go to Payroll Info. In the Earnings box, select the option on the drop-down to add a payroll item. Select Hourly Wages, Regular Pay, enter the name placeholder for the payroll item, select Next. The default expense account for the payroll item will be payroll expenses. This would only come into use if you are using the time in payroll. Finish. Select OK to save. If you get a pop-up for Payroll Info Other, select Leave As Is to move forward. You should not assign a pay rate to this payroll item. Next, make sure that every employee has the box checked. Use time data to create paychecks. Navigate to Employees, Employee Center, edit Employee, Payroll Info. Check the box, use time data to create paychecks. OK to save. This is a QuickBooks requirement for importing time, and you'll want to make sure to add it as a step when creating new employees in QuickBooks that will track time in ClockShark. ClockShark connects to QuickBooks Desktop using the QuickBooks Web Connector. This is a free service included on most QuickBooks Desktop USA accounts that can be downloaded from Intuit if it's not included on your QuickBooks Desktop version. The connection with ClockShark can only be set up on the web connector of one computer at a time. It's possible for accounts with QuickBooks Desktop hosted on a server to make the connection on multiple computers if each computer is accessing the QuickBooks company file through the same file pathway. This setup requires an IT person on your side to set up and is not a service ClockShark can provide. Since the web connector will need to remain running to provide ongoing syncs with ClockShark, you'll want to choose a computer that remains on during business hours. It's often best to have the web connector installed on the person's computer who is working most closely with QuickBooks and their timesheet process, since occasionally they may need to access the connector to check on things or sync the web connector manually. It's likely that you already have the web connector installed, so you will first want to check if it's installed or running on the computer. It's generally found in two places. First, by going to File, Update Web Services in your QuickBooks Desktop account. Second, by searching your desktop for Web Connector by selecting the magnifying glass at the bottom left of Windows and then type Web Connector into the search box. If you don't already have it, you will now proceed to the Web Connector installation step on the ClockShark website. Follow the link to download the newest compatible version of the Web Connector directly from Intuit. Make sure to choose the latest version that supports your QuickBooks Desktop year. If you're not sure which version or year you have, take a look at the top bar of your QuickBooks Desktop account to find out. QuickBooks Desktop Canada customers can only use Web Connector version 2.1.0.30. So now, you are ready to proceed with the Web Connector installation. Unzip the Web Connector and run the setup. Once you've completed the install, if the Web Connector didn't open on its own, you'll want to open the Web Connector by selecting the magnifying glass to search Windows, and then type Web Connector into the search box, and select the application. With the Web Connector running, now let's return to the ClockShark website. you should be on the Web Connector step. Click on the download link for the Web Connector QWC file. A QWC file downloaded from Internet Explorer will not be supported by the Web Connector, and we recommend downloading the QWC from Chrome, Edge, or Firefox. Depending on your browser, the file will open immediately, or your browser will ask you to save it somewhere on your computer. If the file didn't open immediately in the Web Connector, you will just need to open the Web Connector, select Add Application, and select the QWC file from where you saved it. Next, you will get 2 security prompts from QuickBooks, and you'll want to grant access on these. For the QuickBooks Application Certificate prompt, select Yes whenever the company file is open, then select Continue. For the Access Confirmation prompt, select Done. Now in the Web Connector window, you should see the ClockShark application. Enter the password for the ClockShark user you were logged in with when you generated the QWC file. Then check the box on the left and press Update Selected. The Web Connector will now connect with ClockShark for the first time. The initial sync may take a few minutes. Once the 2 green progress meters show 100%, your initial sync is complete. Now it's a good time to cover how the Web Connector works. By default, the Web Connector is set to run once per hour. It can be minimized or hidden down at the bottom right so that it runs in the background on the host computer. If you close the Web Connector instead of minimizing or hiding it, it will stop syncing automatically in the background until the next time it's opened. QuickBooks will need to be open for it to run successfully. Go back to the ClockShark website now and press Continue to move forward to the payroll mapping step. Select the default payroll items you would like your regular time, overtime, and double time hours tracked in ClockShark to go to in QuickBooks. If you don't use overtime or double time, that's not a problem, but you will still need to assign a payroll item for them in this step. For example, many of our customers who don't track double time will select their overtime payroll item for the default double time payroll item box. Whether or not time in ClockShark is calculated as overtime or double time is determined by the overtime settings assigned in your ClockShark company settings. I encourage you to review the overtime settings for your account to ensure that they are set up properly. If you're using the placeholder payroll item method, you'll want to assign the placeholder payroll item for each of the boxes. Click Save and Continue, and you are now done with the initial setup. Congrats!